Hello everyone, welcome to Crypto Basics Coach podcast. I'm Marco. I'm here to help people navigate this topic so as to benefit from the opportunity this new technology provides and not get distracted or put off from the nonsense there is out there about crypto. Anything and everything presented and discussed, whether here or in our sessions, is of an educational nature and should never be taken as financial advice. Always do your due diligence and consult professionals before making any final decisions. Hi folks, hope you've been well, had a great week. Today's topic's going to be something that I usually end up bringing up when I'm talking to people, which is plans. The common question that I have for people is, well, what's your plan? And what's interesting about that is that it doesn't matter if it's your finances. I've spoken to people about their careers. I've spoken to people about advancing their sports, in particular tennis. And often what I find is that no one has a plan, including people who might be trying to get healthier. They might be trying to build muscle. They might be trying to lose weight, whatever the case might be. And often when you talk to them, one of my first questions is, well, what's your plan? What does your plan look like? And they often look at you with like, well, I don't need one, do I? Because I know where I want to go. And that's probably the biggest mistake most people make, is that they don't put a plan together. And I honestly believe one of the biggest reasons is that, well, you see, if you write down a plan, it kind of leaves your head through your arm onto a piece of paper, or for some people, especially the younger generation, yes, you'll use your computer and you'll write it out on your computer. The point is that once you've articulated it, well, guess what? You're now accountable. And if it's one thing I've learned in life is that, I'm sorry to say, most people don't enjoy being held accountable. They would prefer not to be accountable. And unfortunately, if it's not bad enough that people don't like being accountable to other people, the key person that they're not being accountable to is themselves. So with regards to crypto in particular, although you can take these principles and apply them to any area of your life, I'm just going to go through some things that when I'm talking to people about crypto in particular, often they'll say to me, well, what does that look like? What should I include in that plan? And by no means is this list going to be exhaustive, but at least it will touch on some really key points that you would want to start with in terms of putting your plan together, okay? Remember, this is about investing. Investing is strategic, okay? This isn't gambling where you're just picking or buying a lottery ticket and you're hoping for the best, okay? That's not a plan. That's hope. This is about a plan. Maturity is about a plan. Success is about a plan. Okay, so it's really important that we cover some of this off, and it's interesting that beyond what is crypto, which coins should I look at, what does a use case mean, etc., more often than not, I always end up coming back to what's your plan. Without your plan, you're just going to go all over the place and potentially never get to the destination you want. Okay, so first thing I always ask people is, well, what is it that you want to change from your current situation? What's your destination look like? And it doesn't mean necessarily how much money you have in your bank. It means also from a lifestyle perspective. And lifestyle can be everything. It can be from where you take your holidays to whether you're giving, you don't want to work in your job anymore, whether you want to have more time for your family, whether you want to travel. It doesn't matter. It covers everything, right? But you need to have a very firm idea of, well, what does your destination actually look like, right? If you were to supposedly on Monday wake up and you had your ideal lifestyle for that whole week, what would each day look like? What would be the first thing you'd do? What would be the second thing you'd do? What would be the third thing that you'd do? Be very clear on what you think your destination is, okay? Because one of the interesting factors about that is that there may be some things that you could actually already be doing. You don't need to wait till your bank account is a certain size before you could start doing some of these things, whether that's reading a book, whether that's exercising, whether that's looking at your investing, whether that's traveling, whether it's doing a reno, it doesn't matter. But get it clear in your head for you and your partner. What is it that your lifestyle looks like? Okay. And then importantly, you need to put a date. Okay. So that lifestyle that you've just described that you want, you're saying that you want, by when? Is it by 2027? By 2030? By the time you're a certain age? Or some other factors, but you do need to specify a time. Okay, so you need to have a destination. If you go to the gym and you sat down with a personal trainer, the first thing he's going to ask you is well, what's your goal? Are you here just to muck around? Are you here just to meet the opposite sex? Or are you here to actually achieve something? Oh, well, I want to lose 3 inches around my waist. Okay. I want to drop 15 kilos. I want to be able to, change my my muscle mass to fat density, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So you would give them a specific answer. This is no different. And you need to sit down and think carefully about it. And then if you do have a partner, compare. You may find that their ideal destination is not the same as yours. And you need to know each other's destinations as well. One might be more committed to a destination that the other one isn't. Okay, so that's if you've got a partner, you're going to have to sit down and understand what their destination looks like as well. And specify a time, as I said. Now, once you've done that, the next thing to do is, take stock of where you're at. Okay, so where are you at right now with regards to capital that you have available to invest? That doesn't necessarily mean your bank account. That might mean other things you have, property. You might have antiques. You might have precious metals. You may have memorabilia. You may have God knows what. You may have a garage full of tools that you no longer use that you could possibly sell. Okay, so take stock of the capital that you have available to you, including what investments do you currently have. It might be a case of redirecting or restructuring your portfolio with current investments. Okay, and as part of taking stock of where you're at, you need to also identify to yourself, what are your real priorities at the moment, the ones you believe you have, okay? Because this leads me into my third point. You need to be honest with yourself and your partner of whether your priorities are currently matching your current actions. Now, I have talked about this before in the short version, long version, and I also remind people when I work with them one-on-one. You need to look at your current actions and sit down and be honest with yourself to say, are they actually congruent with what I'm telling myself, more importantly, and others, including my partner, what my priorities are? And you might shock yourself to find that, your current actions don't really support what you think your current priorities are. And so if you're going to sit there and take stock of where you're at and be honest with yourself so you can understand the gap between where you're at and where you want to go, you need to have an honest conversation with yourself and with your partner, if you have one, in understanding, okay, I say these things are important to me, but my current actions don't seem to back that up. Okay, if you don't acknowledge that, if you don't take accountability for that, you're essentially bullshitting yourself. Okay, forget about what you're telling other people. You're essentially not being honest with yourself, and very little is likely to change if you've had years and years and years and years of convincing yourself of one thing when actually the truth is the other. And as I've always said to people, actions are the reality check. Okay, there's an old saying that says, don't listen to what people say, watch what they do. Now, I learned that a long, long time ago, to seeing who does deserve my time and my effort to work with and who don't. And it comes down to, do their actions, are they congruent with their priorities? Okay, so again, write those down, be honest with yourself. And what you might find is, like a lot of people will say, I'd like to be healthier. Yeah, I'd like to lose weight. But then if you were to actually ask them, so how many times have you gone to the gym? How come you keep eating chocolate biscuits? How come you're not, you constantly drive to the shops instead of walk, for example? Okay, you'll then quickly find their actions are not congruent. So really, they've confused their priorities with what they'd like to have, what they wish to have. Okay, it's not the same thing. Your your actions reflect what your current priorities really are. And you need to take stock of that to ensure that, no wonder I'm not where I want to be in my career, my relationships, my finances, my sport, whatever. Okay, so take stock of that and be honest with yourself. The sooner you do that, the better off you'll be. So far you've set up, what's my destination look like? You've acknowledged where you are currently at with regards to resources, capital, funds, etc. And most importantly, you've been honest with yourself as to whether your priorities really match your current actions. Okay, now once you've done the above, again, I always use above because I write it in notes, the things that I've already mentioned, you've now got a frame of reference that you can then design your plan because you've understood your gap. You've understood where you're at, to where you want to go, and what you need to do in between. Okay? So then you can start to answer some questions when we talk about crypto specifically. You can then start to answer some questions around, so how much do I need to accumulate? And of which coins? Which use cases are the ones that I believe in will get me where I want to go? Okay, so how much do I need to accumulate and how do I accumulate them? Is it through an initial major purchase? Is it through dollar cost averaging? Is it through those cards these days where through your normal spending you can accumulate, right? You need to work out the how and how much. And, well, by when? If you're looking to retire, if let's say you're already in your late 50s and you want to retire in the next few years, well, you need to work out, well, based on the price appreciation you're expecting, how much do you need to accumulate in the next 2 or 3 years, or by 2030? Or if you're a lot younger, over the next 10, 15 years. But you've got to have some calculations so that you have some specific amounts that you can aim to. And then you can work out how you're going to accumulate those. Do you always buy on the dip? Do you restructure your portfolio? Well, the how will come to you, but first you need to understand how much do you need to accumulate and by when. And that'll tell you the speed at which you need to accumulate. Okay? Something else, well, depending on your goals, will be, well, how much do you sell along the way, if any? Or how long do you need to hold out? Okay, maybe you're going to be just in appreciation mode for the next 5, 10 years. There are people out there that have a pretty good lifestyle. They love their job. They wouldn't necessarily change much. They already make a good dollar. So this is running in the background, but they know that in 10 years, they want to potentially make money totally irrelevant to their life, even though they might decide to continue working for another 20 years. There are plenty of people in science and in the medical industry that really do it for the passion. Okay, but gee, wouldn't it be nice to have an alternate income that you don't need to rely on? And then from that point, what I recommend with people is, okay, so you've done everything that I've already mentioned. So now tell me, from here on, what will your activities look like? Your everyday activities. Okay, in order for you to get developed and in order for you to get what you need, which is obviously both knowledge and accumulation of certain coins and so forth, but what do your daily activities look like? Is it, as I said, your perception of being successful and your destination may be that you're going to spend the first hour of every day doing some sort of fitness routine. That might actually be something you could incorporate now, if that's what you think your destination is going to incorporate. Okay, so at this point, you want to sit down and write down, what activities do I need to be doing? Right? Do I need to be eating different? Do I need to be exercising different? Do I need to be listening to more content? Do I need to understand about AI, about technology more because I don't come from that industry? Do I need to read generic books about finance, like the ones I've recently mentioned on my short version, TikTok and Instagram and Facebook? Okay, you need to work out and actually understand so that you can hold yourself accountable and go, right, at the end of the week, so how many things did I actually do that I said I was going to do that actually is going to help me get to my destination? No different to revising the week and going, great. So, did I increase the weights at the gym? Did I decrease the amount of junk food I'm shoving down my throat? Et cetera, et cetera. Okay? And you want to come up with a way of, define a way that you're going to hold yourself accountable and your partner. Okay? And vice versa. So it might be that you sit down weekly and go, okay, well, we said this was our destination. We said this is where we were at. We said these are the activities that would help us get there. So how many have we done? And if you have to come up with a table, a spreadsheet, doesn't matter, even a conversation. But this is about holding yourself most importantly. Okay, this is when you're looking in the mirror. Okay, you're holding yourself or your partner is holding yourself accountable. Okay, work out a way that will help keep you accountable and help keep you on track so that you're more likely to stick with it. But it is really, really important that you sit down. This is something that I've learned to do quite naturally because of my sport. Okay, it doesn't really matter what you think. At the end of the day, every weekend I play competition and the scoreline is what the scoreline is. It doesn't matter if I think I'm progressing, if I think I played well, if I didn't. At the end of the day, the scoreline tells me where I'm at. Okay, and if I'm not honest with myself as to how I performed, then it's pretty hard to put in some extra practice or some extra activities to improve if I'm just constantly deluding myself. That, no, I'm playing well. I haven't won a match in 3 years, but no, I'm playing really well. Yeah, it doesn't work that way in sport. Okay, sport tends to give you very quick feedback. And what I'm finding in society, especially with people that don't play sport, I find that they are not used to and they don't take stock on a weekly basis or a monthly basis even, or even a yearly basis. Okay, they're just not used to holding themselves accountable to, right, how am I going? Am I doing the things I should be doing to get the results that I'm wanting to get? Okay, so as I said, this isn't meant to be an exhaustive list. It was just a couple of key points that I wanted you to consider. But I know that if you follow these points, it'll set up a framework that will hold you in good stead, irrespective of what you want out of life, irrespective of where you're at, and quite frankly, irrespective of whether this is crypto related or it's, some other area of your life that you want to improve. Okay. The principles are the principles, guys. Doesn't matter what the area is. Now, last week's homework, I asked you to go off and have a look at what is the programmable component of a CBDCs, and a stablecoin is any different. Hopefully you've looked into that and you understand a little better about stablecoins and CBDCs and what's this programmability component. What's that all about? How is that different to, the cash that we use these days? So, or what we perceive to be the digital dollars that we use these days through our credit cards, debit cards, etc. So hopefully you got some value out of that. This week, what I'd like you to look into is, are stable coins at risk if the underlying currency resets? Okay, so have a think about that, because there is a lot of information out there that is identifying that it's hard to say, but possibly in the next few years, because of all the debt, because of where economies are at globally, all around the world, there's a lot of talk about a reset, where essentially what will happen is you'll wake up on a Monday morning and find out that the current currency, doesn't matter which country you're in, that you currently use, has now been replaced with another currency. Okay, it'll still be called, in Australia, for example, it'll still be called the Australian dollar, but it'll just be the new version of the Australian dollar, and debt and everything else potentially gets affected in different ways. But for all intensive purposes, the current current currency that you're using is essentially going to become completely worthless, and we're going to move to a new currency. Okay, so that's what this homework is about, is having a look at stable coins, understanding what backs them at the moment, and understanding, well, what risk are you taking if you're holding too much in stable coins if the underlying currency has a reset. Okay, and remember, if you're using another country's stable coin, then you're going to be concerned about their currency and their currency reset as well. So I hope you got something out of today. As always, pleasure talking with you. You guys stay well, and we'll chat in another week. Take care. If you found this information helpful and are interested in a more hand-holding approach while navigating this complex industry, please visit cryptobasicscoach.com, that's basics with an S, and book a session. The first 30-minute session is free, and we can get to know each other, talk about what your aims are, what you're looking to do, and how I might be able to possibly help. I've helped people get started, set up exchange accounts, wallets, DeFi platforms, and general knowledge. Look forward to speaking with you. Cheers.